Hello everyone and welcome back to the Motor Trade Mentors podcast with David Gott of the lovely car company and myself, Joe Bay at Barrow Motors. And today is a bit of a different episode. We've actually got Steve Kerslake, who is from British Automotive Alliance Limited, and he has heard some of our guests and ourselves talking about warranty solutions. What is the best way to do it? Should you go self-funded? Should you do a third-party warranty? And Steve reached out because he has moved out of the motor trade from having worked in it himself and set up his own warranty solution, all of which I'm sure he will tell us. He's started telling us some of it before we started recording, but we'll make him do it again for the benefit of everyone. It'll be interesting to hear what it is that British Automotive Alliance do. Yeah, how it can help us. So welcome, Steve.
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, good to meet you. Finally, I am a big fan of both of your channels, by the way. So I'm a little bit starstruck here today just to see you guys and to be talking to you. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That's how I feel every time I come on with Dave, to be honest. Yep. Tell us about how this all came about then.
So if I start from the beginning, so you know my kind of background of where it all started, really. So my motor trade journey, if you like, started in kind of 2005. I started at Renault, of all manufacturers, in 2005 when they were really reliable, as if you remember, tongue in cheek. But so I started as a sales executive there, and I remember giving my first little desk in the corner, and they gave my first little stapler and hole punch, and it kind of that's where my journey started. As you know, it really felt like it was my own business, if you like, just at that desk and selling cars from a main dealer. And I just remember sitting there and kind of really enjoying selling cars. And obviously Renault at the time, you know, despite their kind of reliability issues, you know, they were quite ahead of their time. You know, even back then we had, I don't know if you remember, the Laguna had the auto handbrake first. It had the hands-free locking first. It had all those things where the French just wanted to try out all this new technology. And we were like the guinea pigs, really, you know, selling it to customers and waiting for it to go wrong. But I love kind of seeing the new cars coming through and all the sporty stuff and the 172 when it first came out, 182 and all those type of things as well. I just remember sitting there and just thinking, you know, looking at my sales manager in the office thinking, how does he do that job, you know, valuing cars and managing it all and costing it all out? And, you know, one day I'd love to be in that position. And eventually I kind of worked my way up. I was one of the best sellers at the time and worked my way up the ladder, if you like, and eventually became the sales manager in Weybridge in Surrey. Back then, kind of in 2009, they were downgrading a bit. They had one of their showrooms that closed down and they made some redundancies. They kept me on, but they basically wanted me to run 2 branches on half the staff at the time. Kept going for a year or so. Was always wanting to do something myself. I was kind of thinking, well, with all this work I'm doing, I kind of might as well do it myself because, you know, it was a case of I was selling, I was managing a team. One of the other guys that was made redundant kind of approached me and said, you know, do you want to start selling some cars and doing that where it's not quite so pressurized as being in a main dealer environment and doing what you're doing now? And it came at the perfect time, really. So I left. Yeah, we basically started trading from home. And I think we started with something like six cars, I think it was. And you kind of get itchy feet at that point where you're thinking, oh, I need to get a forecourt. We need to do it properly. We need to get an office or whatever. So we eventually found a forecourt in Guildford and set up there. We had about 30 cars in stock at the time. So we had, I think, about 15 of our own. And we had a deal with a local hire company, car hire company, where we were very lucky, actually. They basically, anything that they, you know, went over age, they let us have a selection of, you know, whatever we wanted. And then they told us what they wanted back and we put the profit on top, and it was a bit of a sale or return. So it was a bit of a bonus we had, you know, just to fill the forecourt at the time. 2009 to 2012, there was like 2 recessions. I don't know if you remember going back then, but it was a very difficult time. I mean, I know it's a difficult time now, but it was particularly difficult. So things got tough and sales started to deplete a little bit. And the partnership I was in, partnerships are always difficult. And you're absolutely right. Especially when things are tough and it's your own money. And we decided at the time to basically part company, and I took on the business. And in the last year, it was just me basically, you know, valeting the cars, fixing the car. You know, I had a garage next door that was helping, obviously, but I was pretty much hands-on doing everything. And my wife turned to me and said, you know, why are you doing this? You're there all the time, and you're getting really stressed. And at the time, I just, wasn't having a great time. I made back the money, that was lost by the buyout from my partner. My warranty rep walked through the door and he said, "Look, I see, Steve, I can see you're really stressed and you've been through a really hard time." He said, "I'm just about to start up a new warranty company." He said, "I really want you on board." So it got my attention, and he basically said it basically cover wear and tear, it's going to cover the battery, it's going to cover everything, we're going to give profit share. It was way too good to be true. And me being quite naive at the time, I thought I've just got to jump on board with this and, give it a try. And that's where my kind of warranty journey started, really. So I kind of closed the business, which, was a really difficult thing to do at the time because it was kind of like my baby. And I'm sure it's the same for you guys. When you've built this business up over so many years and, it's very difficult to let go. And that I just remember the last day when I sold that last car and shut the doors. It was, not an easy time after building it up over those. I know it was only kind of 3 years, but it felt like a lot longer. And then I literally just went on the road. I think I kept one of the cars that we had in stock to run around the country, but around the southeast effectively, talking to dealers, selling this new product. And within, I think, 6 months, managed to turn like £500,000, just to get this new business going for basically my old warranty rep that started this company. As with anything like this, because they were trying to offer everything to the customer, they realized that it was burning very heavily and they were getting to a point where they needed to change things. And they basically decided one day, we sat in a meeting and said, "Look, guys, we're spending way too much out on warranty and warranty claims. We're going to have to take out this level of cover. We're going to have to take away the wear and tear. We're going to have to take out, all these selling points like the battery and everything else." Understandably, but they decided they want to put the prices up at the same time. And, I couldn't justify that to the dealers I had on board, and decided to move to a different warranty company that, decided, I'm not going to mention names here because I don't think it's right to do that, but moving to another warranty company, where again, you get all the promises in the world, they're going to pay all the claims, they'll do commercial decisions if it's a little bit grey. And, I was relatively new into that kind of warranty game, if you like. So, I didn't really know exactly how it worked. But the long and the short of it is, I think I think something I did learn is that, the larger the warranty company, the more mouths there are to feed, and the more it eats into your fee effectively. Whatever you're paying per warranty, it's eating more into that percentage, which leaves less to pay on claims effectively. And, they're not going to continue to pay claims to the point where they're unprofitable because, just like you got, they're not in it for charity. And obviously in the background of all this, I've always had a web design developer background. So when I had my own forecourt, we did our own website. We were into Facebook even back then, and it wasn't even for car sales. It wasn't even a big thing back in 2009. But we were really into all that kind of advertising and stuff. So in the background, I was developing a warranty program effectively that could kind of be used from more of a helpful guide for dealers. So our system kind of predicts risk, gives you a guide, depending on how many cars you're selling, depending on what cars you put through, it will give you an element of risk to tell you what to put aside in your pot. And we administrate all of the claims. So we will negotiate, the parts and labour, will deal with the customers. And that brings you up to date really to where it is today, so I think we've got something like 65 dealers on board now. We're very proud of the fact we don't have one bad review out there, because we try to deal with things the right way. And effectively, it's like I was explaining to Dave earlier on, it's just more about just spending time with the customer, explaining things. I think there's too many companies out there that were just happy just to reject it and then put the phone down, whereas we try and spend the time with the customer explaining why it might be rejected, and if it is rejected, we'll still try and find the customer a garage and make sure that it's the right kind of cost. We work hard, very hard to make sure.
So if we were to say sell this warranty, would we sell it to the customer? How do you make money, basically?
Yeah, so we just charge a fee for administrating each policy. So it's a small fee, but it's a numbers game for us. So we are a small business. and obviously we're taking a small fee per policy, and we also offer breakdown as well, which is a nationwide, there's 4,000 independents out there that come and, they're contracted to get to the customer within an hour. So we make our money on the breakdown and obviously on the policy administration. And like I say, it's a numbers game. So 65 dealers averaging, selling 20 cars a month. We've got a range of dealers from, larger dealers that are selling, maybe 50, 60 cars a month down to, the small one-man band that might be selling, 5 to 10 dealers, 5 to 10 cars a month. Yeah, so we work very hard on, just trying to look after those. It doesn't matter whether you're big or small. We take the same attitude for all of our dealers and try and make sure they're looked after, really. And mainly because I think because I come from, like I say, I come from your side of the desk. Even if you were to talk to some of my dealers, I take it very personally because I understand what it feels like when you're there on a Saturday and all you want to do is sell cars, and then you have a dead day, and then you get 3 claims, 3 customers call in with warranty claims, and I know what that feels like, when all you want to do is sell those cars to cover your overheads and everything, and it doesn't always work out the way you want it to. So we just try and help you guys to take away some of the pain, really, so you can carry on with your jobs and sell more cars.
Fair enough. Yeah. So, all right. So just
I didn't mean this to become a sales pitch, by the way. That wasn't my intention. So apologies if it sounds a bit like that. But yeah.
Your job, I'm thinking, this sounds really good, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So essentially, it's just do you only do self-funded warranties?
Well, we do have a partnership with Warranty Assist as well.
Okay.
So we have a partnership with them. Effectively, if there are cars that you don't particularly want to take the risk on, or if you want to upsell, so we've got a lot of dealers that want to upsell as well. So you can. We've got some dealers that kind of just do the self-funded and they're happy with that and they like the way that works. We've got some dealers that do a bit of a mix. Where they'll do the self-funded and then they'll try and upsell some. So yeah, we have a partnership with Warranty Assist that kind of works alongside it effectively, and we have a very good relationship with them as well. But yeah, my passion is obviously on the self-funded thing because we know it works. We've been doing this for 5 years now. We haven't got one dealer that's gone the wrong way round. They're all profitable with it, and I think the average dealer now is like £38,000 up on our books. So I think once you get into that, once you've been doing it a little while and you've got that padding in the bank account, it's much easier to make decisions where you can just get things sorted and just carry on selling the cars and not having to worry about it or get sleepless nights, thinking, I've got that car to sort out and it's going to come out of my... And I think that's the biggest challenge for us actually, is that obviously we put the onus on the dealer to set up that separate account and to put that money aside, and there is an agreement that we get our dealers to sign to say that they're going to do that. And I think that's the biggest challenge, because as soon as any dealer, and I was the same, has any pot of money anywhere, they automatically think, I need that money in cars because that's going to generate money. And I get that, but I think the issue is that if you're doing this kind of scheme, you've got to have that money aside as a separate entity. And then over time, maybe a year or two down, 2 years down the line, you can look at it and see what your claims history is, and then look to see how much you can pull out of that pot to then reinvest back into the business. And I've got dealers that are doing that. They'll reinvest that money maybe back into, once they know what their claims are kind of like over a 1 or 2 year period, they'll reinvest it into maybe an extra member of staff, maybe a sales manager or signage, or, to tart up their showroom or maybe, like I say, reinvest it back into stock, which is, how they grow their business, like using that kind of scheme. But that is the biggest challenge, is that, unfortunately the risk is always going to be there. There's, you can't escape it. It's just how you kind of prepare for it, really, and the more prepared you are, the easier it is.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get my head around it. So basically, we've got to put money into our separate bank account, leave that there, and then you charge us an administrative fee. So if any warranty comes in It's like, oh, here's the number for British Automotive on our invoices. Any warranty claim comes in, give them a ring.
Yeah, and we'll deal with it, and we'll look after the customer, and obviously we'll make sure that it is a covered item, and it, because obviously you're not, if it's 2 or 3 months down the line and it's something that's wear and tear, you're not obviously liable for that, and we'll make sure that the right claims are being paid. It's more of a fact trying to take the pressure off you guys, because if you're in the showroom, for example, selling a car, trying to sell a car, or you're preparing for a handover. Or, the worst ones are when you're trying to sell a car and then you get a call on a warranty claim and you're trying to deal with it on the phone, and you might have somebody in the showroom.
Yeah.
It doesn't always sound great when you're trying to deal with a claim on the phone when a customer's, potentially trying to buy a car. So it's we always tell our dealers, if you've got an issue, just say to them, look, give BAA a call and they'll look after you, and that's what we do. We pride ourselves in looking after the customer, making things get dealt with correctly, so it relieves you guys, like I say, so you're not having to deal with these things, in front of the public, or in front of customers, and trying to give you a bit more space, so you're not having to deal with all that pain. Really, we're basically like a paracetamol for the motor trade. We're just trying to ease the pain, because we know, or some people describe as like the dartboard of the motor trade. Really, we're trying to take some of the pain away from you guys, because it's not easy. It is. It's one of these businesses, isn't it? It's got to be one of the hardest businesses to run out there. You have to go and buy the stock, prep the stock, clean the stock, sell it, and then you have to deal with the aftercare as well. So it's our scheme is really designed to try and help. Effectively, is the bottom line.
Right then, Steve. So for the benefit of the people, obviously we've kind of explained it, but I'll try and sort of bite size it for people who want to know what a self-funded administered warranty is. Get yourselves to give us a warranty booklet or set the rules out for whatever it is that's covered under the warranty. And rather than calling us, if a customer has a problem with their car, they'll call yourselves, and you can tell them that's not or not covered, which is great, because in a sense, me and David said before, we're softies, so we'll just be like, oh, okay, bring it in. But it gives you that buffer.
Yeah, and everything we do as well is kind of we understate everything and and try and put it in a position where it over delivers. So, the policy is a 1 level cover, so it's really easy for everyone to understand. But it is a low level of cover, and the idea is that is because of what I've learned in the past. Where we can maybe say something, we can say it's maybe rejected or it's not something that's covered, and then we will go to go to the dealer and say, look, really this should be a CRA one. It should actually be paid for ideally, and usually they'll agree, and then and we can go back to that customer and say, look, the dealer's been really generous here, it's not covered, but they are prepared to help you out. So it's always ends on a positive as opposed to a negative of a rejection, and often the customers are happy to kind of negotiate as well. So we do a lot of negotiation to say, look, and I'm sure you guys do it as well. If you've got a claim and you say sometimes it's a bit grey, or it's been out for a little while, whatever, and you sometimes say, look, if we go halves, will that settle the issue? And often it does. And at the end of the day, all we want is both sides to be happy. So you can move on. And carry on doing what you do best.
Fair enough. What I was going to say is, what is the cost of the dealer? Is there a subscription? Is it just per warranty?
So it's a very small fee per policy, so per car sold effectively, and it goes up slightly incrementally, depending on the length of time. So we do 3, 6, and 12 months. Mm-hmm. There are some dealers that do 24, but we try and avoid that because it's kind of can be sticking your neck out too far. Recommend that if you've already got like a padding in your pot already, when you can be a bit more brave if you like. But yeah, 3, 6, and 12 months. Most of our dealers will offer a 3-month and a low claim limit initially, again to kind of understate, because it's almost irrelevant what claim limit you put on there. It gives us a bit of a negotiation with the customer, but if it is something that is the CRA, the claim limit is kind of you know, it's more as a guide for the customer, a bit of education, if you like. But it allows us to, say to them on occasions, look, your claim limit is, 500 quid, but we've gone to the dealer, and obviously this is a bit more substantial, but they're happy to go a bit more. And again, it just leaves them with that positive outcome as opposed to the negative.
And how much would that cost, Steve?
So it starting from a 3-month policy starts from £15.
That's great.
And our breakdown, so 3 months, which is home assist as well, is from £18 for 3 months. So the idea is to keep everything as low cost as possible, because at the end of the day, it's a volume game for us, but we just want to obviously ensure that your pot is as profitable as possible, and we're here just to assist on that. We like to see ourselves as a true partner with our dealers. It's almost like having a low cost kind of warranted, clerk, if you like, in your back office. That's how we kind of like to see ourselves, as to try and help your business along, really.
You sound great, Steve. I just want to get to the nitty gritty of it. Like Dave asking about prices and whatever, and say, I take it, well, whether you kind of support it or not, dealers could potentially upsell a longer warranty, self-funded, right? So you could say, or do you not support that? I was going to say, you could say, we can give you 12 months warranty and you charge them 500 quid.
Yeah, obviously it's not a regulated product, and obviously it is recognised by the FCA self-funded scheme, but obviously they do, as a guide, ask you to keep close to what the CRA is, what the consumer rights are. So yes, we can do 12 months, and a lot of our dealers will upsell with that as well, but it needs to keep kind of within the guidelines of, what the CRA would cover effectively, which is again a bit of a grey area in itself, because obviously when it gets past that 6-month period, some of the things most of the things are potentially going to be wear and tear, aren't they? But I think that's the issue with extended warranties as well. There's so much grey area.
So Steve, would you say this is more a warranty that, we give a 3-month warranty for free? Is this like we're giving you the 15 quid to deal with the customer, but you're not advising us to sell a 12-month warranty?
Yeah, like I said, I do have dealers do the upsell, and like I say, some of them will use Warranty Assist for that, and they'll upgrade one of those, so it takes the risk. If it's a longer term, it will take the risk from them, and they'll try and upsell some as well. But generally speaking, the majority of our dealers are the ones that are giving this 3-month away as a starter, as their basic thing, and then we can administrate that. Some offer 6 months. It varies from dealer to dealer, but yeah, the idea is the majority of them will give them first 3 months for free, and that's where we kind of do most of our work, dealing with those early issues, really.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's great. That's great. I think.
And you said about
go on, Joe.
Breakdown as well.
Yes.
How does the breakdown work? Because we used to be able to offer a free breakdown thing, but if we could include it, it would be obviously handy.
So there are a lot of free ones out there, and we did consider trying to work that into a price, but to be honest with you, we wanted to offer something which was a bit more than your. So I think there's certain ones out there that will give you breakdown, but it won't necessarily, give you home assist. And the other, if you're putting breakdown on every car, we've actually got like an agreement where we'll do 5 back to base. So wherever the car is, in the country, Scotland or wherever, we'll actually recover it back to base for you 5 times a year if you need it, as an option. So it's in my mind, it's okay, you're having to pay for it, but there is benefit. There are additional benefits, if you like, from some of the free ones out there that will pick the customer up and maybe take them 10 miles or even drop.
So what is the cost to add that to, say, like a 3-month policy?
So the 3-month policy would be the £15 to administrate the policy, and then it'd be an additional £18 for that 3 months breakdown.
Okay.
That's great.
So yeah, 3 months 18, and then it's 6 months is £24 for the breakdown, and then 12 months is £36. Just trying to keep the costs as low as we can, and obviously as volumes increase for us, obviously the more competitive we can be. But we have searched around and made sure we found a product that really works. We're very proud of our breakdown. They're contracted to be out. I I shouldn't be saying this because it's bound to go wrong, isn't it? But they're contracted to be out within an hour to the customer. And so far, they haven't failed me on that. And that's not an easy task when you're nationwide, and there's certainly some larger companies that I won't mention that struggle to do that. So we're very proud of the product, to be fair. It works very well.
That sounds pretty good. I mean, if you can offer a customer 3 months warranty and it's 33 quid with 3 months breakdown as well. So you've got your warranty and your whatever covered, and you just call this number and it takes it off your plate. Don't get me wrong, obviously there's going to be customers who just call you direct anyway, and I guess you'll just redirect them to you. But
we get all sorts of calling us, as you can imagine. It's I really want to separate myself from obviously we are a warranty company, but we see ourselves as a proper partner with you guys. That's how we like to, we're there to try and assist your business and try and help, and we put a lot of work in to do that. We are certainly not, and one thing we drive into our claims team is that, we do not throw customers back at you. We deal with them ourselves, because there are far too many. I'm sure you've witnessed it or you've had it in the past, where you've had claims where, they've said, that's one for the dealer to sort out, and they've thrown it back at you, and you think, well, why am I paying all this money, to either have it administrated or have it extended warranty if you're just going to throw it back at me every time, So we take a stance where we'll literally try and take it as far as we can. The only person you usually hear from is us to ask, if it is something that's covered, if you're happy with the costs, and then it gets.
What are you thinking, Joe? Would you go with this?
Yeah, potentially. I can't see why not. I mean, I've used similar services before, and I thought this would be, this is the great solution. The only problem with the people that I used before, which I won't say who it was, they just didn't answer the phone. So
yes, well, yeah. Well, I mean, so we've got a designated call centre, and we flex between 4 and 6 members of staff at the moment. But again, we have a rule that they have to answer within that 30 seconds. So you can have a go today. Give our claims team a call today, and test us out. You'll see that they answer
Steve,
very quickly.
I'd love to know you make money out of this business. If you've got,
well, that is the issue. That is the issue. It sometimes feels like it's a bit of a charity thing, but we are in profit. 5 years down the line. Yeah. Obviously, like I say, it is a numbers game for us. And we try to keep things as lean as we can but without devaluing the product. But obviously, the more dealers that we get on board, the better it, the more profitable it becomes. But it's numbers game, really.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's the more cars we sell, the more claims we're going to get, and the main thing is we need to concentrate on selling cars.
Absolutely,
and it's so right that when you get them claims, they come in bang, 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 and it does slow you down.
Exactly.
And I've always been of the ilk of, you put your money in the spare pot, you've got the money there for the claims, and I've always just dealt with the customers but in a way, that's probably why I've then had a salesman as quickly as I could, because I couldn't handle dealing with all them warranty claims all the time. So I suppose, traders starting up now, watching this is an ideal product for them.
Yeah, I mean, if you're used to dealing with the claims yourself, this is kind of like a privilege, if you like. It's going to cost you more to use us, but the idea is really to take away some of this pain, so your business mind is thinking about how you can grow the business.
Yeah.
And not dealing with all the negative stuff, really, that takes time, and it can take time. There've been times where I've had a claim advisor on a customer, literally dealing with them for the day, for the whole day, literally trying to find the right garage to book them into, because that's the biggest challenge out there. If they're not local, and you're trying to find the right garage, it's sometimes trying to find the right one that deals with the specific problem you've got, because they can vary, as you know. Sometimes they can be more complicated than others, and it can be very time consuming trying to find the garage that is happy to spend that time and deal with it, and actually do a decent price.
I think this is good. So this stops people taking them to like the main dealers. It stops them just going out on their own and trying
Yeah, I
to
mean, we
sort it.
explain every call. We always explain to customers, it's not always necessary to take to a main dealer because you're not necessarily going to get any better service. To be honest, all these independents now have all the, especially on the VW specialists, and they've all got the equipment that's needed to do that diagnosis that the main dealer can do. Obviously, we do have like a limited kind of labour rate at £60 an hour. So we kind of explain to them, if you're determined to go to a main dealer, it's going to end up costing the customer, more.
Yeah.
So we do try and avoid that at all costs because the labour rates now at main dealers are eye-watering. Just for them to look at it for an hour, you're already into 150 quid these days. So it's when you're dealing with used cars, effectively, you've got to be realistic about where these cars have got to go.
Fair enough. I can see why it would be a good system, like Dave said, especially for people who are new or it does at any stage, isn't it? The bigger you get, the more warranty stuff. I was just thinking if it was we sold 20 cars a month, which we probably sell more than that, but let's for the argument's sake, it's 20 cars a month and it's 300 quid a month, then you could quite easily spend £300 worth of your own labour or staff's labour and dealing with it.
I think the best thing to do, is often to ask around, other dealers that are doing it and see, how they're doing and trying to get a gist of how they feel about it. We've got plenty of dealers that rave about how it's worked for them and the time it saves and everything else. But it's
I don't know about you, Joe, but what I'm thinking at the minute, like if anyone local buys a car, I'd probably just give them my own warranty. Probably wouldn't book this in, but if someone from Scotland bought a car, I think this would be ideal for me.
Well, yeah, it takes all that hassle of this is the thing. I assume you've got if you're not collecting, I'm sure you are, data from all the garages you have used and had good experiences with. So you got a bit of a network of people you can trust, because that's the next thing. If you're a car dealer and you have a warranty claim, like Dave's saying, it's further away from home and you can't just say, because we haven't got time, usually what we'll say is just find a garage that you want to use, and as long as they're VAT registered and seem sensible, get us an estimate first. So you're allowing them to get it into the garage to then get an estimate to then decide whether you're happy with their rates and all that sort of stuff. But if you've got someone else actually.
Yeah, we have like two separate kind of tools, if you like. We've got Book My Garage, which is on our website as a tool, but we also have our secret database of garages that we know we've used for claims, and they've been really helpful. And there's actually a lot of mobile repairers out there that have been really fantastic that we have on our database as well. But we never tell a customer that we recommend anyone, because every time we've done it, we've had instances in the past. As soon as you say to a customer that you recommend a particular garage or mobile repairer and something goes wrong, they come off.
You told us to use them.
Yeah, exactly. It's the worst possible thing you can say to them, really. But so we're very careful about that.
And what is the worst experience you've had then, Steve? Like, what's the
Well, actually, just recently we've had. I listen to how many Land Rovers and stuff that Joe sells, and we've had three, and I'm not exaggerating. We've had three Jaguar
Ingenious,
what they call ingenious engines. That's it. I call them ingenious.
Yeah.
But so we've had three of those with issues. One was a total engine failure, so that's had to be completely stripped. Obviously, we have contacts now to obviously get them done, at a competitive rate, and they're very good at, they can turn it around pretty quickly as well. We've had one with a stretched chain. I think the other one, I can't exactly remember the details of the other one, but yeah, we've had a lot of, and they're all the same engine, that 2-litre diesel, that are causing us no end of pain. And as much as I trying to say to dealers, just avoid JLR, just don't sell them, because they are just painful. I know when you guys see sometimes there's a good profit margin in it, there's an opportunity, you can't resist it. And yeah, so sometimes we have to deal with the aftermath of that. But yeah,
I paid the £15. That's your problem now.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
literally I go to forecourts, and if I see them there, I literally feel physically sick when I see them on a forecourt, because I just think that's going to be my next problem. But yeah,
What's it like having calls every day for warranty stuff? I know you're going to get used to it, but
I tell you, I think it's, and for all of us that will have to deal with it, you do have to have a very strong, thick skin on this game, because obviously you guys get them every now and again. We get them flow. I mean, we've probably had already, being Monday morning, we've probably already had 10 come through the office this morning. Yeah, you have to be a certain type of. I think you get used to it after a while, but it is very hard, because it is all very. You're just dealing with casualties all day long, and it's just trying to deal with that, and still keep your spirits up, because it is hard even for us. You forget, that, especially from our point of view, because we're dealing with it from the. We're thinking about how it's going to represent you guys at the same time as making sure that we're being fair to the customer. So it's a juggling act to effectively get the best possible result we can, to keep the wolf from the door effectively.
so is it the same for you where, like, for me, I think it's a small minority of customers that are screamers. So on a daily basis, how many screamers do you get? Like, what demographic of people do you get every
Wow,
year?
yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So probably not as much as you think, actually. They all start off pretty apprehensive and anxious on the phone, but when you're talking about real screamers, we're probably getting one a week. So probably not as much as you think. But we do try and put people at ease, because all of them have potential to be a screamer when they come through the phone line. So it's just a case of and it is difficult, because when I obviously going back in the day when I was selling cars from my forecourt to today, I would never predict that I'd be the one dealing with all the things that I didn't want to deal with back then. Effectively, it's the hardest part of the job, isn't it? It's the dealing with the fallout. And so obviously my background is sales, but it's become very much on the after sales now. As we're growing the business, obviously we're taking on more experienced people to take the load off of me as well, because there's, obviously from the beginning it's been, my claims team and myself dealing with all the major stuff. So we're starting to grow. We've got other people that are joining the business that have, one that was actually my ex-boss that used to be a service manager at Renault, funnily enough. So she's got about 30 years experience as a service manager and a main dealer. And that's, a lot of help, because obviously there's not a lot that she hasn't come up against that she doesn't know how to deal with, which is handy to have.
That's it. Yeah. I don't know about you, Joe, but I'm thinking,
Get signed up, babe.
Yeah, honestly, I'm proper getting sucked in here.
I'll send the agreement over to you, Dave. I feel really bad, because I genuinely didn't want this to become a sales pitch or anything, but I just wanted to have a chat with you guys about about where I started, and really sharing, the same things back then. It hasn't really changed. It hasn't really changed. It's still just as difficult back in 2009 than it is today. You still have the same problems. It's a tough game to be in. But you learn along the way, don't you? Different ways of doing things.
But people can take advantage of our kind nature. And James, Chops, he fixes lots of stuff, doesn't he, Joe? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I watch his YouTube channel as well, and
probably saving some money having that middleman to say, "Oh, look, well, actually, the dealer doesn't have to fix this."
No, this is it. And I think, like I think you've alluded to in previous podcasts that you've done, that the dealer always has this bad, reputation, if you like, from back in the 70s as like the Arthur Daly thing. But to be honest, with all the information that is out online now, with all the CRA, everyone, all the customers know what their rights are. You can't be a dealer like that anymore. It's in, with all the legislation out there. You have to do things by the book. You've got to do things right, and it is a very difficult business to run. And I think customers need to have a bit more respect to these businesses that they're buying cars from. Personally,
yeah.
It's a difficult game. It's a difficult game, isn't it? Even if you're selling property, that the owner cleans it. They just show them round, and then if there are any issues afterwards, it's nothing to do with the estate agent, is it? Most of the time, you think with a car with 2,000 moving mechanical items that are on the road every day, it's never going to be an easy thing to manage, is it?
No, you never know. The estate agents show you around the house when they know the noisy neighbours aren't there. I'm sure you could get blamed, but still, it's So tell us, Steve, where can everyone find all the information and all that sort of stuff? Where should they find you?
Yeah, so obviously we have probably the website is the best place to go, really. If you put in BAA warranty into Google, you'll find us there. We are kind of on Facebook, but not heavily, if I'm honest. We're on LinkedIn. All right, I'm on LinkedIn. We've got a page on LinkedIn as well, and we are kind of starting to get on TikTok as well, actually, because that's becoming quite a big thing.
Do you warranty tractors and diggers?
Yeah, so basically we had a call from Ernest Doe. I don't know if you're aware of Ernest Doe, but they're a large supplier of agricultural and construction machinery.
Yeah.
So they obviously wanted a self-funded scheme as well. So we built a system specifically for their industry. But that's a totally different kettle of fish. Obviously, we don't manage those claims.
For those who are listening, I'm just looking at the website where there's pictures of diggers and tractors and stuff. I wasn't sure if it was just stock images or you actually did warrant those. So
yeah, we don't manage those claims. We built the system for them effectively, so they could use their own because it's the same issues with them as you've got effectively. So apart from their stock can be, if you're looking at a combine harvester, you're talking about a 300,000, 400,000 pound machine, which goes through heavy use, and it's the same issues, just
more expensive.
Yeah, effectively the parts and everything and the servicing is huge.
Yeah.
So they just needed a system, and again, it works exactly the same way as the system for car dealers. It will predict the risk according to all the claims data that's built up behind it to give them the best chance at the end of the year to have a profit that they can reinvest.
Yeah,
so it's exactly the same thing, really.
Brilliant.
Well, there you are. You heard it here. We will put the link in the description as well. And
thanks, Joe.
Interested in doing that?
Great to meet you guys.
Get in there and check it out. Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Steve.